Hey guys, this is Alex from Team APS, and I've got a fun little video for you. We're going to talk about my personal 5 coolest Yu-Gi-Oh! Glow-Ups. And if you don't know what a glow-up is, it's basically when a monster goes from A to B to C. A and C are pretty different, and C is pretty cool. So let's get started. First we have Giganagigo. If you guys don't know him, he's a monster that's typically thought of as an evildoer that the heart has justice one day. And he's gone through a lot of changes over the years. I did a count and I think I counted he's in like 38 different card arts at different points in his life. So he starts off in a really small form, basically a small child called Gigabyte. Gigabyte. And Gigabyte is just a small green lizard that likes to do bad things. Not a good kid, but a bad kid. But he meets someone that actually turns his heart towards justice. And as he gets older, he turns into a monster called Gigabyte, which is like a young adult form really. Taller, sleeker, and a lot stronger of a monster. Which is a bit of a retrain of his form, Giganagigo, which is his base form. So that's the form that we all know him as. And it's this point where he's basically just about cut ties with the person that turned his heart towards justice. He's kind of moved on. He made a new friend, someone he thinks is cooler, and he's going to follow around and lead him to some crazy places. As he gets older, he winds up in a whole other world. And he has to fight against this thing called the Invader of Darkness. But he's not strong enough to do it himself. So he actually enlists the help of a monster called Kozaki that actually performs experiments on him, and he becomes something wicked. It's actually kind of hard to explain, but it's basically a giant lizard with metal all over him. And in that form, he's called Giganagigo. Or is it Giganagigo? Giganagigo. In this form, he's kind of insane now. He's much more powerful, but he's kind of lost the plot. He's not actually trying to help anyone anymore. He's just obsessed with being stronger and hurting things, which is not great for his friends who will wind up on the receiving end of his attacks. At his most dangerous, he's actually a monster called Giganagigo, which is basically about the same thing, but even more deadly. He's a very powerful reptile monster at that point with 2950 attack points. Back in the day, that was my monster right there. If I summoned that, my opponents were losing. But that's the point. When he's like this, his mind is truly broken and there seems to be no coming back at this point. But, once again, his heart finds justice. And he comes back as Giganagigo the Risen, an Xyz monster with a really holy look to him. It's still Giganagigo, but now he's a shining knight of justice and he can fly. Alright guys, here's number 4 on my list. Now this monster is a pretty personal one for me. I'm a big fan of American comics, so when I say Revenge Red Slayer, you already know what I'm talking about. Revenge Red Slayer is a monster that is basically supposed to be like a dark superhero. But he's got some issues. It's all in the name. He's out for revenge. He's got some beef to pick with these other zombie monsters, but they're not like him. But they seem to have killed him and the woman he loved, and he needs some payback. But it's gonna take some work. In his base form, he's colorful, he's flashy, he's got some flair to him, but he's not quite good enough to beat them on his own, especially against the Battle Lord, which is a monstrosity much more powerful than him. But he actually gets an upgrade during his battle with Battle Lord and dons some of the Battle Lord's own armor to defeat the Vendreads. Yeah, I know, they're all called Vendreads even though he's a Vendread too. I don't get it. I don't get that part. But with that power up, he's able to defeat the Horde. But that didn't come at no price. After the battle's over, you see that he's actually losing his power. Not all of it, mind you, but the extra boost he got in his executor form is being lost, and the monster that's left behind is something wholly different. It's like he's avenged now. He's a Vendread savior. Still a hero, still a monster, but it looks like he's got a chip off his shoulder now. Looks like he's moved on. His outfit is kind of back to normal, but the colors have shifted now. The red flare in his eye is gone, turned to purple. He's switched out his 2 arm blades, which are made of bone, which are edgy as I don't know what, for just one rather sleek arm blade. Edgy, but not like dark edgy, kind of cool superhero edgy. And you see him looking over his city as his scarf now flows in the wind. And it seems he found some peace. And if that's not a glow up, I don't know what is. Alright, number 3 on my list is Shuret, Strategist of the Necrons. So I'm sure you guys were expecting this, but his glow up was pretty extreme in that he seemed to change a whole lot in a short period of time. And by whole lot, I mean by age. Like, he starts off as actually a child, I'd say maybe 13 years old at best. But he's got some pedigree to him because he's the descendant of the Gishki from an earlier version of Yu-Gi-Oh! And the Gishki are descendants of the Ice Barrier even before that. So he's got a lot of power behind him. And this is all relevant because as part of the Necrons, he has access to what's called the Aqua Mirror. And he uses this Aqua Mirror to activate these rituals that will let him don armor of past monsters. The crazy thing is, every time he donned that armor, he changed a bit. The first one he wore, ideally, would be the Necros of Clossless armor, where it's essentially him, but he's basically wearing Clossless. A little weird, not looking great, but that's what the Necrons did. They wore dead monsters. Get over it. That's what they do. But he's roughly the same age here. Not too much of a difference, but that starts to change in his next form, which is Necrons of Brionic, where he's wearing the armor of the Brionic Ice Dragon from the Ice Barrier series. And he's older now, for sure. But like, not much time is passing in this story. Not really. And it gets crazier when he goes to his Necrons of Trishula form, where he's basically an adult. And that's crazy. Like, it's like he blew up in a very short period of time. But yeah, I think Shuret glows up really well in a really short period of time, so he has to make this list. So my number 2 is a bit of a curveball, because I'm pretty sure no one really thought I was going to say this, but my number 2 is actually Gusto Falco. Yeah, the small bird from the Gusto archetype. He's green. It was the pair with Kamui Hope of Gusto. Another card you probably didn't expect me to ever say. But a lot happens to Falco, because when he's paired with his rider, he becomes Digusto Falco. And when he's in that form, he's actually a synchro monster, and he's a lot bigger, badder, and now Kamui rides him. So when the Gusto do this, they actually become a monster much more powerful than the sum of its parts. So it's wholly a new being, even though it's 2 people in 1 card. I always thought that was kind of cool with the Gusto, and I was always glad that it was used again in later archetypes, which I'll get into pretty soon. But like I said, Falco changes. Falco is actually one of the casualties lost when the Shadows attack. When the Shadows attacked, they took over a bunch of monsters, including Falcos. So Falcos became a monster called Shadow Falco. And in that form, he was like a macabre puppet version of himself. It was definitely not the same monster anymore, and you could even say the original was dead, because we didn't think we were getting him back. But we did, because many years later, when the Infernoids are finally defeated, our Falco was actually released. But he's released in the same form in which we first saw him. He's basically the same age, while everyone else in that world had aged for a very long time. The Falco that emerges is still a Gusto, but there's no Gusto left, so he's got to find where he belongs. Luckily, an old friend in Kamui was there to help him. Kamui had aged too, and Kamui was known as Ritual Beast Tamer Elder. And as Elder in a new bird, so he couldn't actually ride Falco anymore. But all wasn't lost, because someone else from their old archetype was captured by the Shadow as well. Remember Winda? You probably remember her more of as a Shadow monster, but she was also released at that same time. And since they both needed someone, they paired together in the form of... here we go. Ritual Beast Ulti Falcos. I think I got the name right, I'm not sure I tried. But in that form you even see Elder waving to them as they fly past, because Elder knows that their time together is past, and Falcos' life is really just beginning. Number 1 is chosen by the World Chalice, or as you know him, Avram, or Maximus, or Avram. He's gone through a lot. He starts his journey off similar to Shuret. He's a kid. He's maybe 13 years old. He's on a journey with his 2 friends, and they have a big destiny ahead of them, and they're in quite a hurry to get there. But over the years, they're going to be tried pretty heavily. But luckily, they have the help of a mysterious guard dragon and a fairy that leads them towards the World Legacy artifacts. Unfortunately, the artifacts come with their own trials and tribulations, but our main character always gets stronger to meet that. When he first gets stronger, he becomes Avram, the World Chalice Blade Master, a lake monster with shining blue armor. He and all his friends get this power up in order to help them fight the monstrosities, or in this case, the crawlers. But the story keeps going from there, because eventually he comes into blows with the Mech Knights. And the Mech Knights seem to be a pseudo-antagonistic group that tried to take the World Legacy artifacts from them, which led to some hardship along the way and heartbreak. But during that time, our main character becomes a new monster. He becomes Mech Knight Avram, because some unfortunate things happen, and the Mech Knight Blue Sky sacrifices himself to save Avram's life. And Avram dons part of his armor in his memory, and he probably just needed a new wardrobe. He got kind of messed up. After that though, he lost his friends. His girl died, his best friend left and went crazy. He needed a new crew. And we don't really know how many years pass, but he becomes an adult. And as an adult, he now has a new team, the Crusadia. And now he's known as Crusadia Maximus. As Crusadia Maximus, he's still trying to find all the world legacies. During their fight, a lot goes down, and Maximus has to have one final power-up, and he goes Super Saiyan. He becomes Mech Knight Crusadia Avram. Basically the Super Saiyan blue version of himself, with a nice blue shining sword and blue shining hair. When he's like this, he's able to defeat even the most powerful of Orcus. And with that power up, he's able to save the day, and we're pretty sure the story ends there. We're not quite sure because they haven't really ended that series yet, but we're gonna see. But he's literally glowing at the end, so I'm going to call that literally a glow up. So that's all I've got for you guys. Those are my 5 coolest Yu-Gi-Oh! Glow ups. You guys, tell me yours. If you like the video, make sure you like the video. Also, leave your comments. If you haven't subbed yet, please do. And we'll catch you in the next one. Pass turn.